I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties! Welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of the Book Bound Besties podcast, where we dive deep into your favorite books, have unhinged chats, and Elyse theorizes about what's to come because she hasn't read the whole book yet. And today we are talking about Iron Flame, chapters 21 to 25. Just a little content warning, as always, this episode definitely contains topics that are not suitable for little ears. Mm-hmm. We get down and dirty in the interrogation chamber, so...
And not in the good way.
No, not in the good way, unfortunately.
Yeah, that'll come.
Actually, it will come very soon. I'm quite excited.
No, we could just jump into it.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say, I'm still on my Tessa Bailey kick. Mm-hmm. I am so on that Tessa Bailey
How many
kick.
books does she have?
Like 40.
Oh,
yeah. She's prolific.
Okay.
And I just love them so much. They are such a little slice of heaven. I inhaled her book, Getaway Girl, and I just read it so fast and I enjoyed it so much that I immediately restarted it. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, I've been trying to be a good little budgeting girly and making the most of my library.
Right.
And the Libby app allows me to borrow books and audiobooks. The thing is, my library doesn't have all the Tessa Bailey books, which is kind of frustrating, but anyway. And they only have like 6 audiobooks.
Oh, yeah. Audiobooks are harder to find for sure.
Yeah, it's really annoying. I'm just rereading Getaway Girl because I wanted to enjoy it. They're just so nice and like delicious, and the men are always such top tier. Like this one, get this, okay? He is a retired captain in the army. Mm-hmm. He had 3 tours overseas. He is running to be mayor of Charleston.
Okay. I like Charleston.
Yes, you have a personal connection.
Yeah.
He is like 6'5". He's got thick thighs and a big butt, which if anyone has seen a picture of my husband, describes him to a T. He's not 6'5", he's like 6'1", but like whatever. Yeah, like and he's like kind and just protective.
Yeah.
Just like all the things, like ticks all the boxes. So like I wasn't ready to say goodbye to him.
That's fair. I can understand that. I just started reading Assassin's Blade. So.
Are you in the first short story or have you made, okay. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to be back in the world. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see her as a 16-year-old. Yes. She's like almost more sassy. Like
definitely
cockier and stuff. So it's interesting to see her in that dynamic, but I'm just curious to see how it's going to be as a book. Like, I am not a short story person.
Me neither.
Or I don't lean towards short stories. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to see, like, as a whole, I'm curious to see how it's going to be. Because I was like, when I didn't know initially it was short stories. And
I didn't tell you?
No.
Whoops.
or I just didn't realize.
Anyway, you weren't listening to me?
I wasn't listening to you. So, no, I don't know. I just didn't realize. And I'm not big on short stories. I'd rather just be immersed in the same story longer. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel you. I will say, and I feel like I've definitely said this to you before. Basically, each short story, she meets someone really pivotal in each short story.
Okay.
And it comes back later on. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, Assassin's Blade, meh. And then they read the rest of the story and they don't understand the emotional impact of the rest of the story because they didn't read Assassin's Blade. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, like, I felt the same way. Sometimes I was like, some of the short stories, I'm like, ugh, this is like a little bit of a slog. Mm-hmm. You need to power through. Also, how far deep into the first short story are you?
Really not far.
Oh, okay.
Like, I read the first few chapters, like, yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're still a few chapters in. The thing is, I'm curious, and maybe we'll have to circle back next week. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty steadfast in my recommendation of the timing of when to read Assassin's Blade. I guess you have a bias towards agreeing with me because you're not a short story kind of girl, but I'm wondering how you would feel if you had read it first.
Oh, I'll have a better opinion later on.
Okay.
Because, I'm too early in. But I think based on how Crown of Midnight ends, it makes sense to circle back to Assassin's Blade now, as opposed to continuing on with the story and then going to Assassin's Blade.
Yeah.
From that point of view, like,
I read it after Heir of Fire, and like, it was fine. Basically, you can read Assassin's Blade literally whenever, as long as you read it before Kingdom of Ash. In retrospect, wish I read it after Crown of Midnight, so that's why I tell my friends to read it then. And then SJM recently came out and said that was her preferred reading order too.
Yeah, there you go. She
so I feel very validated. Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Navarre, though.
Okay.
We have a lot to talk about today.
Oh my goodness.
Like, our pages in this chunk of chapters is less by like a third of our usual so far.
The amount of stuff that happens.
I know. I feel like it's just, the episode's going to be just as long.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, chapter 21.
Chapter 21.
We begin in history, where Professor Devera has taken over, making the writers think and talk about the potentially treasonous topic of what they lost in unification. Next at the challenges, we learn that Dain wasn't fully aware of the cost of his memory stealing, and Rhiannon starts putting all the pieces together. Finally, on a walk to the infirmary, we learn that Arik also knows the truth about Navarre. I mean, that is what happened. That's how much happens in this short chapter.
It's true.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot to deconstruct and discuss. The pre-chapter blurb comes from Navarre, an unedited history by Colonel Lewis Markham, and it says, quote, "The migration of the first year is one of the crowning achievements of Navarre's unification. What a celebration of the human spirit to leave a life of war and enter one of peace, blending people, languages, and culture from every region of the continent and forming a cohesive, united society whose only goal is mutual security." And I think that this is such revisionist history.
Oh, yeah. They're celebrating erasure. Like,
basically, yeah.
They're celebrating erasure, and they're trying to convince their citizens that this is something that they achieved and that is to be celebrated. It's like really icky.
It is really icky. I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
So, the chapter opens, and Violet is already injured from the rolling dismount. So if you remember, I think it was last week when Taryn was like, oh, we're going to have to make adjustments or whatever. Well,
they haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Yeah, exactly. And we find out that Nolan now has a waiting list. And to me, this sounds way too much like real life. If anyone knows, here in Canada, it's really awesome that you get free healthcare. But the downside of that is waiting lists. And I just wish that we could have a fantasy world where this wasn't so apparent.
Yeah,
like it just wasn't
home.
Yeah, exactly. Violet is taking out her notebook to get ready for class, and she also takes out the fabric that Xaden left her. And I just want to say, see Elyse, she's picking up on the crafty hobby.
I know. It was funny. In seeing this, I was like trying to think, I was like, okay, why? Like last week, I think it was, I said, weaving wards maybe has something to do with the patterns that she's learning. I don't know. I don't know how it works. And then the only other thing I could think of, a use for tying knots, is that he has
a fetish,
a rope fetish. And then, yeah, not a bad thought. But anyway.
Well, I hate to break it to you. He doesn't, as far as we know. So the knots are not serving that purpose.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay. Sawyer joins them and wonders who's going to teach the class because he saw most of the leadership make a run for the flight field. And when Violet hears this, she completely panics because in her mind, only a major attack would empty the school of leadership. Then enters Professor Devera, who is filling in for a professor that we've literally never heard of, Professor Levini. Levini?
Yeah.
I don't know why I got so weird about that. I'm listening to the audiobook. It is Professor Levini. I don't know.
I was about to say I listened to the audiobook and I don't even remember, so.
So Professor Levini is the history teacher, and apparently he got called away due to an attack on the Eastern Wing. Side note, that is where Xaden and Mira are stationed. They're on the southeastern border. Devera tells the class that only one person has died so far, but he's a recent graduate that Violet knows because he was in Resin with her.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. And she says it. She, like, mumbles it out loud. She's like, oh, my God, he was assassinated or something to that effect.
I don't know about you, though. I don't mumble things in public. Like,
oh, I fully talk to myself in public all the time.
Okay, no. I'm like, I don't talk. I talk to myself, like, sometimes at home or I don't know. But, like, if I'm in public, I'm not mumbling things to myself because I'm going to look like a crazy person. But also, I don't mumble top secret things.
I agree for the top secret things. But I think because part of my job working in props or costumes or whatever, I have to go shopping. So I'm alone by myself and I'm working.
You're alone by yourself?
I'm in public by myself, but I'm working. So my brain is going at 100 miles an hour being like, okay, this needs to be blue. Does that work? Whatever. And I end up literally as I'm in the aisles, like talking to myself, like I'll take like a product and be like, oh, that won't work. Like I just think out loud. I do. I probably look insane, but I do.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Professor Devera pulls a Snape, telling the class that what they're learning is useless. Cue, turn to page 394.
Yes.
But she gives them a quick lowdown of what they were supposed to learn. Mm-hmm. Quote, everyone should know that the end result of the 4-day temper tantrum was Signeson being absorbed into the kingdom of Peromiel, where they've been for the last 300 years. History and current events are tied because one influences the other. Then she asks the class whether anyone can tell the difference between Peromiel's provinces and Navarre's. And I found that this was another fun world-building exercise because it was super subtle and it made it really natural because we're in a classroom setting. So Violet steps in, ever the scribe. Quote, Peromiel's provinces maintain their individual cultural identities. Someone from Signeson is more likely to label themselves as Signy instead of Peromish, as opposed to our provinces who unified under the protection of the first wards, chose the common language, and blended the cultures of all 6 provinces into one cohesive kingdom. And this reminds me a lot of our conversation last week about immigration and the difference between mentality around culture in Canada versus the US, like the melting pot versus the what's the other, whatever. We're the melting pot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Someone makes a snide remark about Tyrandor, and Devera's like, no, we are not doing that.
And she shuts it down, and I have so much respect. I mean, the way she approaches this lesson as a whole, I have so much respect for her.
Me too.
It is scary. I feel like there could be repercussions. Like, the way Navarre's running things with, their censorship and everything, it feels like discussing the history or the past and the different cultures and what we lost to unification is almost like saying, bad things about unification, It's kind of towing a line.
I think she definitely toes the line, but I think she stays safe in the way that she covers it because she basically just starts picking up on what different people are saying and using it in the lesson. So
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, she picks up the bit about the common language, and basically in adopting the common tongue, some provinces lost their languages, and she points out, like you said, the cost to the unification, but she highlights that it was worth it. Anyway, the class continues to call out different things that were costs to unification, so travel, loss of culture, and Devera also adds loss of knowledge because of the loss of language and all that stuff. Then there's this exchange between a Tirish girl and the rest of the class, and she's standing firm in the fact that songs, festivals, and all that kind of stuff was lost, even though they've been translated, and one of the Navarre loyalist writers kind of says that. And Violet starts to get really annoyed at his tone because he's being really arrogant about it and shutting it down and being really rude to her. And he's like, oh, you could just walk into the archives and read whatever translated Tirish book you want. And Violet steps in and she goes, quote, actually, no, you can't. For starters, no one can just walk into the archives and read whatever they want. You have to put in a request that any scribe can deny. Secondly, only a portion of the original scribes spoke Tirish, meaning it would have taken hundreds of years to translate every text. And even then, there are no historical tomes older than 400 years in our archives that I know of. They're all 6th, 7th, or 8th editions. Logic dictates that she's right. Things are lost in translation. And we also know that Jacinia is taking on this exercise, and it's also possible, when Violet's saying things are lost in translation, things are lost in translation, but things are also redacted.
Yeah, exactly. So. Intentionally lost.
Yeah, exactly. Professor Devera reprimands that student, reminding him that Violet has spent more time in the archives than anyone in this room, and then Rhiannon interjects.
She brings up, they have lost their folklore.
Yeah.
My heart started racing.
Did you think she was going to say it?
What they lost?
What the folklore was?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. My heart was fully racing, and I was like, oh, no, you can't bring this up right now. I mean, as Violet is also freaking out, but she doesn't say it, but it kind of just is the first, I guess, clue that Rhiannon's wheels are turning.
Yeah.
And she's noticing these cracks as well, which is very exciting. And then we find out at the end of this lesson that the borders of Navarre were only open for a year after unification. So they were unified and they only allowed people to migrate for a year. So Violet's saying, if people couldn't afford to or just couldn't handle moving within that year, they got locked out, which is so devastating.
Yeah, Devera actually says something really interesting. She says next time that you're up against a rift of Griffin flyers, you're potentially face to face with a distant relative. Scary thought.
And then she ends the lesson asking everybody, like, do you think it was worth it? And without hesitation, they all say yes.
Except for Violet.
Except for Violet. Anyway, I don't know how to feel about that.
About what? The fact that she doesn't think it's worth it?
No, the fact that everyone just, without questioning, thinks it's worth it.
They just don't know any better.
I know.
You have to feel bad for them.
I do feel bad for them.
Yeah.
It's like shitty. Their whole world is a lie.
The scene changes, and now we're in the sparring gym, and it's the last of the challenges because threshing is coming up. Imogen and Violet exchange this like wordless communication that Sloane is ready. So Violet feels like a little bit better about the whole situation. And then in walks Dain the Pain. He's back.
He's back. And it's funny, last episode I think I said it, I was like, we haven't seen him in a while.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Where is he?
But it's true, we haven't seen him in a while, which is really nice. Anyway, he's back to being annoying. And it's reminding me of, remember the scene where everyone's ogling Xaden and Garrick sparring?
Yeah. Plays rent free in my head all the time.
And he was kind of like telling everyone to like get back to work.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Well, right now when they're talking about like what is it that happened that has all of leadership kind of running to the flight field, he kind of, I feel like he was giving off that same vibe of like being kind of a know-it-all and like, I don't know, just like annoying.
Fair.
Riddick pushes back on Dain, trying to find out what's going on. And when he isn't getting anywhere, he asks Violet to ask her mom. And she's like, the woman that barely acknowledges my existence, fat chance. Quote, the woman who knew I was missing for a week, then told me to get back in formation when she realized I'd survived my first combat mission. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be forthcoming with all the information. I just think, you know, like you have to hand it to her. She doesn't really pity herself. She doesn't seem to have any mommy issues. She's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah. We did see it, though, a little bit that time that, like, I think she was with Atos. Violet was with Xaden, and then
oh, yes, Malgrin, Atos, and
they run
Lilith.
into each other.
Yeah.
You see that. You saw the hurt, you know?
Yeah.
But I agree for the most part. She's just taking it on the chin. She's like, this is my lot in life.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Besties, I have a lot of feelings about the upcoming moment, okay?
Okay.
And, like, we're going to need to talk it out.
Okay.
Because Dain is like, are you finally going to talk to me? And Violet's like, nope, she doesn't even look at him. And I just, like, she's being so cold. And, like, she's allowed, like, she has every reason to. But he won't give up. And we've already established that I'm a hypocrite because when Xaden won't give up, or like Xaden does something, we love it. Dain does something, we don't love it. Okay? I don't know how I feel about Dain not giving up in this situation.
Okay.
Like he's fighting for her friendship.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really know what went wrong.
He knows people died, though.
Yeah, but like, is it a red flag that I kind of think it's cute that he's not willing to give up on their friendship?
No, I don't think it's a red flag. But at the same time, I don't blame Violet for not being ready to give him the time of day.
I agree. I agree. And, like, I know that some people are going to be like, oh, he's not respecting her, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, she doesn't want anything to do with him. Like, I get it. it. But at the same time, like, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. And this is his best friend of 21 years. And he, like, I appreciate that he's not giving up on it, you know? Even though I don't like him.
Okay. I got annoyed and mad that he pulled rank and challenged her.
Yes, okay. Like, I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about this part.
Oh, like he's going to talk to her. That's fine.
Yeah,
he's
like,
allowed.
I
but
feel
she
like
told
he's
him
just like a little boy.
Yeah.
Sad little boy, Dain.
But she told him no.
I know.
Like, I'm not ready to talk to you.
I know.
And then he turns around and forces it.
Okay, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about this part.
Okay. He's allowed to try, but he needs, I don't know.
No.
I find they're tied together, so it's hard to not. I don't blame him for going up to Violet and being like, can we talk now?
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense. I don't fault him for it. But she said no.
Yeah, so it, like, to me, I'm treating these as two separate interactions because the first one has me feeling bad for him and the second one has me wanting to punch his face.
Okay. I didn't feel bad for him, but I also didn't blame him for asking.
Rhiannon asks her what's, like, okay, Rhiannon has been really patient. We're seeing her patience thin. She's starting to give little jabs here and there, which I do not blame her at all. Like, I would be really frustrated as well if I thought that my best friend was unwell or going through something and not talking to me about it. So I get it. So she witnesses this interaction between Dain and Violet. And I guess if you're an outsider, all you know is that Violet had a thing for Dain. Dain had a thing for Violet. There was no chemistry. Violet goes for Xaden. You don't actually understand why she hates Dain with such a burning passion. So when Rhiannon sees all this, she goes like, what's going on? Violet brushes it off as, you know, he's just being an asshole. And Rhiannon is like, listen, I'll hate him. I'll hate him on principle, which I love. It's such a ride or die, like, type of thing. But I want to know what actually happened. Like, I'll be on your side no matter what, but at least give me something. So Violet merely says, he stole something from me. And she's about to tell her, or, like, figure out how to tell her something that won't ruin everything, when we get to another parallel to Fourth Wing, and this is what I don't like. Because Dain uses his wing leader status to call him out with Violet. And remember, like, I am a hypocrite, because I loved it when Xaden did it last year.
I don't think you're a hypocrite.
Last book.
I don't think you're a hypocrite, because Xaden did it to teach Violet how to fight. Dain did it because Violet doesn't want to talk to him. It is not the same thing. It is not the same thing.
Yeah, so, like, I noted I had pity for Dain before, and now I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Bodhi tries to step in, but Dain uses his position, again, as wing leader on Bodhi. But I hate to say it, this is very similar to how Xaden used it last year on Dain. So last year, when Xaden calls the match with Violet, Dain steps in and is like, blah, 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 like, don't do this, whatever. And now the exact same shit is happening. But Dain is the Xaden and Bodhi is the Dain.
Right.
Dain allows Violet to keep all her daggers, quote, if that makes you feel better. And I want to throw my laptop across the room. I did not like that little sassitude.
Just going back to what you were saying, feeling pity for Dain, I think it clicked into place why I didn't feel bad for him. We have never, as readers, we have never seen him be a good friend. Like, we have been told they were good friends, but we haven't seen it. So it's just hard to be like,
That's a very astute observation.
So I think that's why.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're not, like, bought into the friendship.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bodhi then tells Dain she's good enough to kill you from here. And Dain goes, she won't. I'm her oldest friend. Like, he's so confident, wrongly so. Like, he should not be this confident.
Yeah.
And so she just, like, reinforces her mental shields, and she's like, let's start sparring. It starts off well, but then he gets her on her back, and I'm like, deja vu, gag. I liked it the last time. I don't like this time.
Yeah. Very true.
And then he whispers to her that he just wants to talk to her. And I mean, like, yes, this is a very effective strategy because she's stuck. She has no choice but to talk to him. But it's also, like, annoying. Violet is not giving Dain an inch. Quote, and I just want you to leave me the fuck alone. It's not an idle threat, Dain. You will bleed out on this mat if you think of taking a single one of my memories. And then Dain realizes, ding, 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 that is what Xaden meant when he said Athbane. And I'm like, how are you so dumb?
Yeah.
He admits that he told his father what he saw when he touched her, but Violet's like, more like when you stole my memories. But he clarifies that all he saw was a flash of memory of Xaden saying he went to Athbane with Bodhi.
But that's the thing. It's almost like he's justifying it by saying, oh, but it was just a part of a memory. Like, dude, you still stole the info and handed it over to your dad because you were like, they don't have clearance to be going all the way to Athbane. They shouldn't be doing that. Like,
well, it's actually Bodhi who didn't have clearance.
Whatever. Yeah. But it's just like, I hate that he's trying to justify it. He's not apologizing. He's trying to justify what he did.
That is
it's
true.
Just like another tick against you, Dain. Like, I don't. Ugh.
And here, Elyse, we have the answer to the question we've been asking ourselves. When Dain said, I'll miss you, he had no idea what was waiting for the squad. He claims to have said it merely because she chose Xaden. My question is, do you believe him?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
In that moment, I was like thinking about how mad I was at him in the previous episodes and stuff. And I was like, okay, like I overreacted. I was questioning, I'm like, does that make me forgive him? And then I was thinking about all the shitty things he did. And I was like, no, I don't. I still don't forgive him.
Okay. That's fair. Forgiveness isn't on the table right now. I was just asking if you believed it.
No, I know, but I did believe it. Okay. And it just like made me think of everything that happened. And because I was like losing my mind a few episodes ago, being like, I can't believe he sent her to her death, blah, blah, blah. But I think he's just dumb. Like, I don't think he did. We've said it before, like, he's a good little soldier, right?
Yeah.
He's the perfect candidate for Navarre because he wants to do well. He has power. He's strong. He checks so many boxes for a good soldier, and he doesn't really obviously question much or think much. So, which is what you need.
Then we get another little revelation. Dain can't believe that knowing that Xaden has like all these reasons to hate Violet, she still chose him. A big reason being the scars on his back. And who put them there?
Her mom.
Did you see that coming?
So I texted you about this because...
But I purposefully did not engage.
I know. Because I was...
Elyse broke the cardinal rule of this podcast. We do not discuss the chapters outside of being on the couch.
Yeah, but I was shocked in the sense that I read it and I was like, oh my God, it's never been explicitly said that she gave him the scars.
Yeah.
I just assumed she was involved in the scars because of, like, the whole conversation that Xaden and General Sorrengail had, like, of, like, the debt that was paid, blah, blah, blah. It was very clear something transpired between them. So I, like, had made that association. I don't know if I necessarily thought she physically did it, but I knew she was there and involved in it. In this moment, I realized that was never addressed. And I was like, oh my God. And, like, what a shitty thing to find out about your mom. So I was, like, shocked for Violet. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, how did I not realize we haven't spoken about this yet? Like, I don't know. It was something I think I took for granted when I shouldn't have.
Do you think that Xaden has any shame? Is that why he didn't tell her?
Shame that it's her mom that did it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't really think about that.
Because when you think about it, it's a Tirish custom. So part of him may be, like, proud or maybe just have no emotion related to it because it's just part of his culture. This is how things are done. Another part of him could feel shame.
Why?
Because when you think about it, it's demeaning to have someone cut into your back 107 times. Like, it's, I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess, like, it's like maybe there's a degree of pride because he's, like, shouldering this burden. But to tell Violet, your mom is the one that did this to me, maybe he's trying to spare her feelings. I don't know. I'm, like, processing this out loud.
Yeah.
I didn't think for you to throw the question back at me. I just...
I guess I just assumed he didn't want to tell her because it was, to protect her. Because it's just like, your mom scarred me physically. Yeah, that would be the only reason why I would think he would omit that info. Because they have just talked about the scars. Like, he openly told her what it was for, right?
Violet finally gives Dain a piece of her mind. And I think it's really important that she got this off her chest. Quote, "You may have been my oldest friend, my best friend, but all that died the day you violated my privacy, stole my memory, and got Liam and Soleil killed. I will never forgive you for that." But Dain can't let her have the last word. He tells her that it's Lilith who did it and then forfeits the match. Bodhi immediately checks with Violet, who assures him that Dain never touched her, her shields are good, the secrets are good. And Rhiannon is done playing nice. She demands that Violet tells her exactly what's going on, because Rhiannon actually heard Violet, like you were saying before, when she muttered to herself the thing about the assassination. Yeah. And Violet confirms that Kieran was also killed. So now it's Kieran and Mason, who were in Ressin and are now dead. And then Rhiannon kind of, like, puts together, like, all the others that were in Ressin and got attacked.
She realizes everyone's being targeted and stuff, so she's like, okay, like, you have to tell me what did Dain steal. Like, she realizes it's not like, oh, like, he took my, I don't know, books, you know? What even would you steal? But, like, she realizes there's something serious going on here. And Violet tells her that he stole a memory. Rhiannon didn't know he could do that, right?
Yeah, because his signet is classified.
It's classified. It's a big reveal. Rhiannon's starting to put more and more pieces together. It's almost like they're about to get to the big secret, but then they're interrupted. And part of me is like, oh, would Violet have told her in this moment? Like,
the thing is, the risk, because Violet tells her, like, I wish I could tell you. I want to tell you. It's not my secret to tell. But the issue at hand here is that nobody else has strong mental shields. If they were at a point in their education where Rhiannon had learned how to build strong mental shields, I think Violet would have been more comfortable telling her. But it's the fact that
the secret's not
the
safe.
secret would not be safe. Exactly. And so much is at stake. And no matter how angry Violet is generally at all these secrets, like, she understands the importance of keeping the secret.
Yeah.
So
do you think that Violet would, like, make a bold-faced lie if Rhiannon did come up with the secret on her own? Like, I don't think she has any way of knowing, like, that they're working with the Griffin Riders, but if Rhiannon comes up with, like, oh my God, it's Wyvern, do you think Violet would just, like, bold-faced lie?
I don't think she can.
Yeah, I don't think she can either.
And Xaden also so expressly repeats that he never lied. He just omitted. So I think that maybe that...
She would follow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, they're interrupted because Rhiannon is really putting things together. She's like, what killed Day?
Yeah.
Violet's like, you already know. And she asks again, was it another dragon? And Violet says no. And then Auric is like, oh, I broke my wrist. Very conveniently. So Violet volunteers to take him to the infirmary. And Rhiannon tries again to interject. And Violet tells her to stop. Quote, don't ever ask me that question again. Please don't make me lie to you. So they're kind of moseying over to the infirmary, and Violet takes the opportunity to do some recon on Auric, asking him where his dad, aka the king, thinks he is, and Mr. Auric must be a party boy. It's giving Dorian. It's giving... because his dad thinks that he's on a tour of debauchery, and like...
It's a great way to put it.
I mean...
But then we have an amazing reveal.
Yes!
That he's actually there because he knows.
He knows.
He knows. So Violet has another ally. It's so exciting.
She finally has someone else that she can talk to about this.
Which is so important for her right now. So basically he figured it out because his guards have daggers with these metal discs on them.
We know what that means.
He figured out the truth of Navarre and was like, I need to do something about it. So he came to Vizgaiath to train, to be able to help. Oh my goodness. What a prince.
So there are theories out there that eventually in this series, Auric will become king.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
There's never been a rider king before, and so that's what people are thinking out there.
That would be amazing. Because, like, to me, like, this is what a king should be. Like, someone who sees the issue and is like, I'm going to find solutions. I'm gonna put myself in there and help the cause and make a better world. Like, that is what a king should be. Not like his dad just being like, you know?
Yeah.
What a chapter.
What a way to end the chapter, right?
Insane. Awards. What is your most romantic line?
Mine is a friendship romance line. And it's, quote, look, I'll hate him on principle if that's what we're doing. No problem with that, but I know you. And you don't cut people out like that unless they hurt you. So tell me, as your friend, did he hurt you?
That's a great line.
Thank you.
I just put, I could keep a secret, Violet.
You could, but your brain can't.
Well, you're not wrong. I appreciate the sentiment, you know?
Absolutely. What's your funniest line?
He thinks I'm on my 20th birthday tour, drinking and fucking my way across the kingdom. Sounds like way more fun than what we're doing here. What part of this isn't fun?
That's cute. Mine is when they're in class and Rita goes, impossible. Violet knows everything. I love how he puts her on such a pedestal.
Yeah, I love that crew so much. And I'm glad that we actually get
We got a great scene of them together.
I know. I did not have a spiciest, though.
Oh, I did. Spicy sassy.
Go.
We're no longer friends, and I'll be ready to talk when the sight of you doesn't make me want to bury my knife in your chest all the way to the fucking hilt.
Snaps for Violet.
Snaps for Violet.
Chapter 22. We're making progress with Xaden and Violet in terms of trust and info about the revolution, before being halted by Varish. Despite Xaden's protests, Violet gets whisked away to her first interrogation session. Super short chapter.
Yeah. The pre-chapter blurb comes from page 91 of the Book of Brennan. Quote, at some point, probably during your second year, you'll realize the trust you feel for your friends and family has nothing on the loyalty you develop for your squad.
Nothing like trauma bonding.
Very true. The chapter opens and Violet is having a nightmare. In it, she's running as fast as she can and she's sensing both Taryn and Andarna in mortal peril. A hooded figure steps into her path, telling her there is nowhere to run, and it's the Sage. He traps her and tells her, quote, so disappointing, all that power at your fingertips, and yet you insist on fleeing over and over, using the same failed tactics and expecting what? To escape? He tells her there's no escaping him. Either fight him and die or join him and live. But he's been waiting centuries for someone with her power. He starts to kill her in her dream and the pain of it wakes her up. So does this mean she's been having the dream? This is a recurring nightmare? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the pain in the dream thing and like that waking her up, like part of me was like, oh my God, are they like Voldemort connected? Like, you know how Voldemort was able to connect to Harry? So she needs like lessons with Snape, apparently. I don't know.
Clemency.
Yeah. So it's kind of scary if they have a connection. I'm like, why? Why is that connection there? How? Who is it? I want to know who it is. But I would assume that it probably is a reoccurring, maybe not the exact same dream, but the way it was written and the way it happened, I just assume that she has been having these dreams.
But because he says in the quote, you insist on fleeing over and over. Anyway, just something to think about.
It's very scary.
The scene changes and Violet and Xaden are back together and he's taking her to Basquiat's forge.
Yeah.
This is a huge moment of trust.
It really is. And just this whole section, the fact that he is willing to show her the place, he's trusting that her shields are getting stronger. Their conversation is so much more open. She's sharing what she's been up to in terms of her research. Like, they're both doing so much better at this trust game. It's so nice.
Their relationship is blossoming.
It is. And I'm like, finally, we're getting back to, like, where we want to be. And then Varys shows up and ruins everything. Anyway.
Good thing they were speaking mind to mind because they were talking about some illegal things.
Yeah. They've been very smart about their mind-to-mind versus out-loud choices. Yes.
You're right. So, like you said, unfortunately, they're interrupted and Violet is being taken for interrogation training. And Xaden tries to stop it, saying that she's on leave, recovering from an injury. And he uses his shadow powers to protect her, forming a wall, and tells her mind-to-mind that he thinks Varys will use this as an opportunity to kill her for the embarrassment Taryn caused Solis. We're back to men and their hurt egos. Varys argues that only Xaden is on leave, and when he tries to touch the wall of shadows Xaden created, he winces. So I want to know if you think, are the shadows hurting him? Is he surprised that they're solid? Like, what is causing the wince?
Oh, that's a very good question. I didn't even notice the wince. I just knew he couldn't get through the shadows. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with his power.
Varys' power, you mean?
Yeah.
I have some thoughts about that later. I'll tell you once we get there. My hypothetical, most heartbreaking line is back with the moment when Violet tells Xaden, "You can't protect me from this any more than you could at threshing." And he answers, "You weren't mine at threshing." And then she responds, "I'm not yours now." No, I'm not okay. You are his. You are his whether you like it or not. You are his.
I don't know why she insists on, like, jabbing
Pushing him away
with that. Like, and she knows those words are cutting.
Yeah, she knows she's hurting him.
It's not nice.
Makes me so mad. Anyway, Violet tells him out loud to drop the barrier, and Varys is like, yeah, listen to her. I'd hate to cancel her leave next weekend.
I really don't like Varys.
Varys, meet my fists.
He sucks.
He makes me so violent.
He's so upsetting because he holds a lot of power and he chooses to use it in, like, such a awful way.
He's such an early 2000s villain.
He is, but he's also, like, a little bitch because, like, Taryn made him basically cry on his knees.
Yeah.
And then later in the interrogation, there's a moment where he also, anyway, we'll get to it, but there's just little moments where I'm like, you're such a little bitch.
I know.
You just have the right amount of power and it's extra frustrating.
I know. Xaden doesn't like that he threatens Violet and her leave, so he goes toe-to-toe with Varys. So Violet calls mind-to-mind to Sigale and asks her to help out, and she's like, sorry, babe, I chose him for his inability to relent.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, yes, but that's not helpful right now because he's in possession of majorly illegal shit.
Yeah.
So Sigale's like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, just for this time, just so like you leave me alone, like, I'll do it. Meanwhile, Grady is asking Violet just how hurt she is. Like, can she basically put up with this interrogation? And this is when I will hand it to you. The many voice situation could be overwhelming because she's having the conversation with Sigale. She's talking in her mind. She's talking to Grady out loud. Like,
it's a lot.
This is a lot. When Xaden goes toe to toe with Vera, she's saying, like, her wing leader's not here, so, like, I'm gonna protect her. And Varys is such a disgustingly good villain because he tells Aiden, quote, her wing leader is otherwise engaged and feel free to continue to argue with me. You're right. You're not under my chain of command. But as I had to remind her dragon, she is. Or did you not hear about her disciplinary session? I'd hate for her to have to repeat it simply for you to learn your lesson, Lieutenant. Then again, you can always join her.
You could almost hear the umbrage, like, at the end.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah.
You're so right. So Violet tells Xaden mind to mind that there's a book on her desk that she needs to return to the archives and indicates what to tell Jacinia to get her the next book. And then she's like, okay, like she goes away with Grady and that's it. Ooh. It like I said, not a lot happened.
No, but lots of feelings.
Yeah.
Awards.
I only have 2 of 3.
I have 3.
Okay.
Are they good? I don't know. I don't remember.
We'll be the judge of that.
Most romantic line. You can't protect me from this any more than you could threshing, I tell Xaden, stepping out from the shelter of his body. You know it's true. You weren't mine at threshing. And I ended it there because
that's how it stays romantic. Mine is, violence, remember, it's only the body that is fragile. You are unbreakable. I want that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I love it so much. So yeah, I don't have a funniest line. What's your funniest line?
I chose him for his inability to relent.
Oh.
It's kind of funny.
Kinda.
Spiciest?
Spicy sassy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in your chain of command. Therefore, I'm under no obligation to follow your fucking orders. And there's always something I can do. She's in no condition to be tortured. And if her fucking wing leader isn't here to advocate for her, then I will.
Same.
Yeah.
So good. You tell him.
I love the protectiveness.
Yeah, it's good. Moving on to chapter 23. The cadets begin their interrogation training and are determined to come out on top, avoiding poison, planning escapes, and promising to have each other's backs. Everyone's taking blows, but Varish has an idea to speed up the process in the form of Atos.
The pre-chapter blurb comes from Major Ofrenda's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant, Unauthorized Edition. Quote, the things that happen behind closed doors in the Rider's Quadrant in order to turn young cadets into full-fledged riders are enough to turn even the staunchest of stomachs. Those prone to queasiness should not pry.
Yeah, reading that, I was like, I don't want to read this chapter.
Yeah. And I hate to break it to you, it's not even the worst of it.
Oh, I'm sure. In reading it, I was like, oh, okay, that was way more tame than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like, I was picturing the worst of the worst, like, really gross stuff.
I cannot wait for our besties who've already read this whole book. They know what I'm talking about, and you are going to be such a mess that I'm really looking forward to.
No.
Yeah, you're going to be a mess.
No.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
I'll be here to laugh at you.
So we enter the training facility, this secret training facility.
Yeah.
It's this dark, windowless room with, like, big steel doors, and they're disarmed. All their weapons are taken away. Professor Grady explains that they're in the instructional phase and could ask questions. They're all sitting at a table. He also states it's going to be ruthless and that Varish has a special interest in this squad. I wonder why.
I know.
So he sets them up at a table. Food is brought to them and he leaves telling them they need to choose a secret that needs to be pried out of them as part of the interrogation.
Yeah.
And they've also been given a secret sentence.
Yeah. So they each have one thing that they can't say. And then they also now have like their own secret and then the secret of like everyone around.
Yeah.
So he tells them to eat and drink. And
Red flag.
Definitely red flag. Like, did they learn nothing from land navigation? But also, he's like, oh, eat and drink because you're not going to, like, eat and drink for the next 2 days. And I'm just like, okay, I-ish understand that this is a real-life situation that they're putting them in. But if they're not going to be eating for 2 days, they couldn't have given them something more nutritious. Like, I get why they gave them what they gave them, but, like, come on.
I know. That's a very good point. I also, at this point, was, like, thinking, knowing what Navarre knows of the real world and what is out there, is this training necessary? I don't think Venin are stealing people to interrogate them. Venin are just killing people.
Exactly. So this is, I guess, this constant question. Is Navarre, like, are they just trying to keep this lie alive that they're spending all this time, effort, and energy on fake training?
I know. It feels that way.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
And even, I understand there are the Griffins. Those people still exist, but the Griffin riders are so preoccupied with survival and saving they're not actively attacking Navarre. I could be wrong, but I don't think dragon riders, are being taken and interrogated and tortured. So it feels like such a crazy exercise, like you said, to upkeep this facade that, like, part of me is like, are they doing it because they just enjoy it? Like, it's just...
No, I think they're doing it because they need to inculcate these riders with the fear of dragon riders. Like, this is all a control tactic and a manipulation tactic. By faking just how much danger these riders are in from a fake enemy. Well, not a fake enemy, but an enemy that is not as bad as the real enemy. They can control.
It's just like, imagine what they could achieve if they weren't spending so much time and energy on this fake stuff and just focusing on the real problem at hand. Like,
but then they'd have to be transparent over what the real problem is.
I know. I just think they're too confident that their wards are going to save them. Because at the end of the day, like, we know it. They're not. And it's just like such a badly mismanaged country or state. I don't know. What is it? What is Navarre?
A kingdom.
So the riders are left alone with their biscuits and juice, and no one drank anything yet. I think they do eat, but they're all discussing, okay, what are our secrets going to be? It is mentioned that they're the only group of 4 in the second years. Because, like, there's enough food, I think, for 5 people.
Oh,
and
I didn't notice
it sparks, like, them saying, yeah, we're the only group of 4. Like, everyone else had 5. We had Nadine, but...
Also, Grady, before he leaves them, says something super psychotic. We're doing this for you, not to you.
Yeah. Yeah. The mental, like, manipulation is so culty and gross and creepy. So they all share their secrets. Rhiannon shares that she visited her family last year in Montserrat with Violet. Sawyer shares that he's never told his parents that he had to repeat his year. My heart was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Riddick shares that he's terrified of snakes, which is, like, just the most Riddick
I know.
answer, because everyone's like, that's not even a good secret. And he's like, yeah, I'm terrified. Like, just show me a snake, you'll see. It's just so funny. And Violet has so many secrets she could share. And this dum-dum says, I'm in love with Zayden Ryerson. Which they all call her out on because it's not a good secret. They're all like, yeah, we know. Like, no, give us a better secret. But I do want to point out that it is big that she was able to say it out loud.
Yeah.
She's been pushing back. And
she's been lying to herself.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. I literally posted, like, a video about it. It was just nice that she got to a point that she could say it out loud. So I was like, okay, are we going to finally like, move past this?
Yeah. Even in the last chapter when her and Zayden are walking to each other and he's telling her, I'm going to take you to the forge, she's like, remember not to tell him you love him. Remember not to tell him you love him. Remember not to tell him you love him.
Yeah. And she says it in this moment, too. She's like, of course, I could say it to anyone but Zayden.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get there. But the real secret she chooses to share is that infantry soldiers killed Paromish civilians while she was at Samara. I guess it's the least risky secret she could have told, but it still feels like a big, like, scary
Well, nobody told her not to say it.
Yeah, I guess so.
She can just say that she overheard it while she was in Samara. Like, it wasn't something that...
Yeah, it's the least risky thing, but it is now, like, planting seeds of doubt in her friends' minds, which, like, could be good, but is also kind of scary. It's, like, it's exciting, because I want them to know. I want them to figure it out.
Forward.
Yeah.
So they go to drink from the mugs. Violet's like, no, don't.
It smells.
Yeah, and I'm like, finally, some brain activity.
Yes.
And so they decide to do some, like, fake disconnecting, because basically they realize that it's the same drug that is in the water that they had drank at Land Nav on the Land Nav exercise, and they know that time they lost their connection to the dragon, so they're like, okay, we're just gonna, like, fake this. And I just think it's so fucked up. Like, that's why they gave them biscuits, to make them so thirsty that they cave and drink the laced juice. Yeah. I mean, it's smart, but it's like...
The deeper we're getting into Navarre, the more afraid of Navarre
it's so nefarious,
like,
yeah. So now everyone's in escape mode, and Riddick asks whether Rhiannon can transport the keys that would unlock the doors through the walls, and she's like, not yet, like, my skill's not there yet. Sawyer's metal manipulation signet will come in handy with the hitches, and Riddick can use his ice to kind of, like, break through the lock. But Grady comes back in, and Rhiannon, like, does her fake complaining, so they're really selling this whole...
Yeah. So in that moment, I could be wrong, but I think if you heat up metal and then cool it down super, super fast, it cracks.
Okay, yeah.
So I thought that's what they were going to do, but it's not what happens. Anyway, I need to look it up. But I'm pretty sure, like, if you heat up metal and then cool it down too fast, it's not good for the metal. But maybe I'm wrong.
I have no idea.
I have to look it up.
Science was not my strong suit.
Okay.
Soon, the squad is chained to the wall, and Violet is in the hot seat. And then Grady leaves them. 2 riders enter the chamber and begin the interrogation. And Riddick decides, okay, like, I'm going to jump right in and lie about my secret phrase to try to distract, and maybe, like, that'll buy us some time. But they're like, nope. They hit Violet.
Because their power allows them to detect lies. So they, like, call him out on it right away. They're like, no, you're lying.
That is true. Thing is, though, these 2 interrogators, they don't know our Miss Violet. They don't know that she has a cool trick to compartmentalize her pain and move forward. She can handle this. The beating continues, and I'm going to gloss over it because it makes me sick. But when they realize that Violet is not going to budge, they start beating the squad so that they can use the guilt that basically, like, she has the power to stop them getting hurt.
Yeah, they're playing a game. They're trying to see, okay, who's going to feel more guilty? Who do we go for? Like, what are our tactics here?
But everyone stays strong. They've already agreed, like, they're not going to break. And then at one point, they're left alone, and she checks in with Zayden, and she finds out that it's only midnight, and so they have all night to go. And then who walks in but obviously King Villain Varish. Apparently, at this point in other interrogations, someone gives up and spills a personal detail on somebody in their squad. But our friend group is tight.
Yeah, it feels early to give up. Like, I get they're being punched, but it still felt early to give up.
I'm not going to comment on it because, like...
You would crack.
I don't know. I'd like to think I wouldn't,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest. Hopefully I never find out.
I mean, I have a high pain tolerance, but at the same time, I don't know. Anyway, Varish is not happy with how slowly things are progressing, so the chapter ends with him bringing in Dain the frickin' Pain.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think in this moment. I was like, why are they bringing him in here? I figured something to do with, like, his power.
Yeah.
But I was, like, freaking out. I was like, is he in bed with Varish? What is happening? You know, like, is he just part of all of these interrogations? I was panicking a little bit.
Good thing we still had 3 more chapters to cover.
Good thing.
No, 2 more chapters.
3. 2? 2.
2. Math.
A word.
Awards. What's your most romantic line?
They'll try to turn us against one another. Rhiannon answers, we don't break. Agreed? Agreed. We all say it.
Yeah, me too. It was that moment when they all decided to stick together.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Funniest?
That's a shitty secret. Sawyer counters. Surprise me with one, you'll see just how shitty.
I wrote, I'm terrified of snakes. So, same thing.
What's your spiciest line?
Quite the mouth for a general's daughter, the woman sneers. Where do you think I got it from?
Ooh, that's a good one.
The sass.
Yeah, I love the sass. Mine is, I believe you all know Wing Leader Atos. Just, it's not
It's ominous as
it's like a
hell.
mic drop, like jaw-dropping
Yeah.
line.
I was jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Chapter 24. Varish tries cunning manipulation tactics, but Dain abstains from participating in the interrogation. After blacking out from pain, Nolan is there to mend Violet, only to prolong the interrogation. It's clear to everyone that Varish is after some deeper secret. With a clever plan, Nolan creates an opportunity for our squad to make the escape of a decade.
The pre-chapter blurb, again, comes from Major Fonda's Guide to the Writer's Quadrant Unauthorized Edition, and it says, every few years, a squad comes along that defies all expectations. They rise through the ranks, secure every patch, win every challenge, and then they inexplicably falter, then fall. They call it the burnout effect. They flare too fast, too bright to sustain the pace. Sad, really, but mildly entertaining to watch them turn on one another. Weird. Like, I'm not even going to comment. That was just bizarre.
Well, now that I've read the chapter, I was like, oh, it's
makes no
weird
sense.
because it, like, ça par rapport. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the chapter. But when I read it the first time, I was like, no. Like, don't tell me they're going to fall apart now, you know? Anyway.
Not our gang.
I hope they never fall apart.
No. So like you said in your synopsis, Dain walks in and is absolutely beside himself at the state Violet is in because she's got one eye shut, swollen shut.
Yeah.
She clearly is unwell. She opens the communication channel with Xaden to let him know the situation. And while Xaden's like, I'm on my way, she tells him, you can't do anything, and she reinforces her shields again. So my question is, why on God's green earth does she open the communication and tell him? Like, what good can come from it other than causing him a ton of anxiety? Like, he knows what's going to happen in this room. He knows what she's about to go through. Like, why add more stress on this poor boy's plate?
That's a good point. She didn't have to do that. Maybe she just wanted him to know in case things go badly, like, this is the situation. Because Varish says that was his plan. He was hoping Xaden was going to bust in because he's like, oh, I'm testing a theory.
Yeah.
We'll see if our little guest shows up.
Yeah.
So,
but
like,
anyway, if Xaden did come in, then their whole faking of the
oh yeah,
taking the
would
drink
also be
yeah
exposed.
Sawyer is super confused by Dain's appearance, and Riddick, poor little sweet naive Riddick, is like, oh, he's here to advocate for her, like Ryerson would,
Because she was previously injured.
because she was previously injured, and that's because Xaden says that's what a wing leader should do. And so I just love that the wing leader legacy that Xaden left is ongoing. Like, he's left a mark on them, not just because he's, like, scary or whatever. It's just because he's a great
good leader. Yeah, great. Yes, I said good, you said great, but you are correct. He's great.
Yeah. Dain refuses to partake in the interrogation assessment because regulations state that a rider should be healthy before the interrogation begins, and she was in a sling. And this is the one time I am so happy. He is such a stinking rule follower.
But it doesn't work.
No, because Varish is like, yeah, the rules say they should, not that they have to.
And Varish wants Dain to use his signet on Violet. He's showing his cards. He's showing that it's very obvious Violet knows something that he is so desperately after.
Yeah. Then we find out that while Violet's been getting private lessons from Professor Carr, Dain has been getting private lessons from Varish.
Ew.
So it raises the question, what is his signet? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
I know. I was losing my mind. Varish says, quote, then who are you going to practice on to extend your ability past recent events? We're running out of civilians around here for Nolan to mend, and if you think she hasn't told the rest of her squad of your little secret, you're giving her far too much credit.
She didn't tell her squad his secret.
But back it up. What do you mean we're running out of civilians to
Mend.
for Nolan to mend? So what are they? Is Dain just testing his signet on people and hurting people?
I don't know.
What does
that
that
part kind
mean?
of threw me off. You're right, because Dain's signet is not painful. You don't even notice that he's using it on you. That's the whole point.
Maybe it's because if he tries to go too far, it's scrambling brains.
Oh,
I don't know. Something like shady. That line gave me like chill, like ick. Like, no, why? What do you mean? What do you mean? This whole chapter, I'm just like, what do you mean?
Varish starts taunting Dain to use the signet. He's like, you can find out what happened when Liam and Soleil died. You can find out what Violet sees in Xaden and why she chose him over you. Like, he's really
what
like...
a snake. I know. I was just... And he builds on it. Like you said, like, he's such a good villain.
He's like the little devil on your shoulder.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's like whispering sweet nothings into Dain, like just like spilling poison into his ear.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. But Violet says no, and for once, Dain accepts her boundaries. Snaps for Dain.
Yeah.
And he leaves. He walks out. Varish gets upset. Quote, well, that was disappointing and anticlimactic, fucking rule follower. Back to typical tactics, I guess. And then he freaking dislocates Violet's shoulder.
Yeah. You see, like, this last moment where he's like, well, that backfired. Like, I just picture him being a little baby bitch again.
That just gives small dick energy.
Yeah. I'm just going to punch her now. Like,
yeah. Ugh. Anyway, she passes up for the pain, obviously, and wakes up to Nolan mending her, like you said in your synopsis. Mm-hmm. So she reaches out for the bond to Xaden because she has no idea how much time has passed, and he's gone. Nolan whispers to her that Varish called him in so he can shatter her over and over again until she breaks. He's on orders to stay close for the rest of the interrogation, which he's extended by a day. Mm-hmm. Who's letting him do this? Like, I understand that he only reports to Panchek, but where is Lilith in all of this? Like, how does she not know what is going on? And I understand, like, maybe she can't, like, interfere because it's her daughter or whatever, but, like, this is raising red flags. Like, this is not normal. This is weird. He's picking on her.
It's the Umbridge effect.
It's
the same thing.
Yeah, it is the Umbridge effect, I guess. Except, yeah. Well,
no, that doesn't excuse it. I'm just saying, like, we're allowing this to happen again.
It's true.
Then, as Nolan is leaving, he's, like, talking to Violet quietly. He says, Varish is going to kill you, basically. Yeah. And he's like, oh, why don't you walk me to the door? Come with me. And as he gets to the door, he tells the guards, like, oh, I'll lock it. He locks the door, but he leaves the window open so they could hear all the conversations that are happening outside. He goes to see Varish and then basically plots. He's so smart. I love Nolan so much. He takes Varish away by telling him that his other patient is in the infirmary again, and Varish's powers might be required, and they're whisked away. Who is this other patient? What is Varish's powers? Like, I was, like I said, losing my mind. Just losing my mind. There's so much, like, yes, we find out a little bit, but, like, there's still so much we don't know.
But I have a question because this part makes the escape confusing to me.
Okay.
So, basically, how they escape has nothing to do with the window.
The window is to hear conversation.
Okay. So he doesn't lock the window so they can hear the conversation. Sawyer melts the hinges off the door. And does Riddick use his power on the lock?
No.
Okay, so he just merely takes the hinges off the door. But the door is locked.
Yeah, but he could have melted the lock too.
It was a magic lock that they couldn't tamper with. So somehow they get through the first door. But when they get to the second door, magically, Sawyer's skills can't get them out anymore. That's when they use the dagger. Like, to me, there's a continuity issue there.
I think Sawyer's skills could have done the same thing again. It's just Violet's dagger starts to react, starts to buzz with power. Yeah. And she kind of, like, takes it out like, what? And it happens to unlock the magic lock. So something with the Tyrish knots are imbued with power that can do stuff like unlock locks.
Yeah. Okay, I guess what you're saying is because at the first door they had no weapons.
Then she gets the weapon and she notices something's going on with them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarification.
No problem.
So everyone's kind of confused, like, how the heck did that work? And Rhiannon is like, who cares? Let's escape.
Yep.
And they do.
And they do. And they're the first people to do it in like a decade. But also, oh my God, now we have another question. Like, what do you mean Teresh have power or runes have power?
Yeah. You're going to find out.
I know. This book. It's so exciting.
There's definitely a lot more subplots that happen in this book than in Fourth Wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, it's like full like of reveals and little things. Like we're getting a lot of information and world building and stuff. So I find that stuff really exciting. So I'm enjoying it. Mm-hmm. I also think at this point in the story, we are seeing a shift in the relationships, like for the better in terms of friendships and with Xaden, which is nice. Violet's shitty mood lasted less than I thought it would. Because I feel like we're already at a turning point. No,
Yeah.
You disagree?
I'm not saying anything. Okay. But I wonder, maybe it's too soon for you to pass judgment, but a lot of people's complaint about this book, and another, I'm like caveating my caveats, but the other caveat is because we're reading it slower, maybe you won't feel this way, but they feel like it's episodic in the sense that...
Yeah, you brought that up last season as well.
Yeah.
And I felt Fourth Wing was episodic, so...
Did you? I don't remember that. Yeah. They basically, by the time Iron Flame came out, the news that Fourth Wing had been picked up for a TV show was out. So they feel as if this book was written...
Yeah, we talked about that. Like, written with that in mind, yeah.
I have the memory of a goldfish then.
Okay, no, it's okay. But basically what I had said is that I felt Fourth Wing kind of, not necessarily was written with that in mind, but I was saying it would make it for a good TV show because it's episodic.
Okay, I see. Awards.
Most romantic line.
I will not participate in an interrogation assessment of a cadet with a prior injury. Bear with me. I think it's romantic because he's sticking to his values.
Sure.
It's like a romance with himself type of thing.
What?
What was yours?
I'll close it.
Nolan,
yeah. Saying I'll close the door, it basically puts the plan into motion.
Right.
Which was a nice gesture.
I love how our awards have just like morphed.
Well, they have to
to be convenient for us.
At the moment, there has been very little like actual romance
It's true.
in the book. So
Yeah.
we gotta play with the theme.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, funniest?
We should consider quitting the quadrant. We'd be kick-ass thieves.
That's good. Well, that was disappointing and anticlimactic. I thought it was funny. I honestly, in that moment, just pictured him like a cartoon. Like, you know how like cartoon villains are always like...
With their like lab coat?
With their lab coat, yeah. Just like goofy. Like,
Yeah.
They have the biggest plans in the world and then something happens and they're like, oh, well, that was disappointing. Like...
You know what? It reminds me of The Emperor's New Groove.
yeah. Oh, we just watched that recently.
Did you?
Good. Yeah. So good.
I love, like, we're two couples, married, no kids, and we watch Disney movies in our spare time.
Absolutely. Disney knows what they're doing.
They really do.
Spiciest line.
Maybe you should let us decide what risks we're willing to take.
Ooh, that is a great one. I just wrote no.
Also very good.
Yeah. Dain impressed me in that moment. Snaps for Dain.
Snaps for Dana Rula.
Look at us eating our words.
I know. Honestly, we're going to be on an emotional roller coaster with this boy. We already have.
Yeah, fair.
Me in particular.
It's true. Chapter 25?
Last chapter.
Chapter 25. After a successful escape, our cadets end up in a whirl of propaganda and lies. Someone in the scribe quadrant is trying to get the truth out, but leadership is determined to smother it. We leave off with the shock of our lives when Violet's past comes back to haunt her. Mm-hmm. And when I say the shock of our lives, my jaw dropped. I didn't know. I was like, as you can tell, I can't even speak. Scott looked at me and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, it's just, oh my God. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm
You
like,
can't tell him.
I'm like, it's just a huge plot twist. And he's like, oh, okay, like bad? I'm like, no, I had no way of seeing this coming.
Well,
like,
I mean,
crazy.
it's not great.
No, yes, it's bad in that sense. But like, I was just like, I had no way of like seeing, how could you predict that? Like, it's so absurd that this happened. Uh-huh. Why did she choose to do, anyway, we'll get to it.
We will get to it. Answers will be
shock of our lives.
found.
Shock of my life.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked.
You weren't?
I've read it before.
No, the first time.
Oh, honestly, I have to... I was shocked, but reading this book was such a blur. I read it so quickly.
Okay.
I read it in like 2 days.
Okay.
And you know me, I was just trying to get to the Xaden Violet bits.
That's funny. Fair.
So,
Fair.
The pre-chapter blurb that we have for chapter 25 is actually from a new text, which is exciting. Tactics, a personal memoir by Lieutenant Lyron Panchak.
Do we know his name was Lyron?
Nope.
Okay.
It's kind of like, what's Melgren? Augustus? Yeah, they have these like really posh names, these guys. Anyway, it says, quote, if we ever choose to invade enemy territory, which we don't, I would choose Zolia as my first target. Take out Cliffsbane Academy, and you take out years of Griffin Riders in one strike.
So I don't remember if I said it. I think I did. But back when they were having the graduation party and the king was visiting Bisgayath, they were all together. I don't know if I said it.
Yes, that would have been an opportune moment to kill or to attack.
I was like, everyone's
Yeah, you did.
there. That would be the perfect time to just wipe them all out. But at the time, I didn't know who the real enemy was. So it changes things. But I was like, that's the same thing.
Absolutely. So the gang has managed to escape, and they're in some random field. And Rhiannon immediately turns to Violet and is like, where did you get those knives? And Violet doesn't even think of lying. She's like, Xaden, he had them made for me. But Professor Grady's right there, and he's delighted by their success.
Yeah.
So kind of interrupts the conversation. And the scene quickly changes. Like, we don't dwell on this whole thing.
It did make me happy, though, that Violet said, I know she didn't really think about it, but she, like, told Rhiannon, and I was like, okay. Like, I feel like every little step is, like, such a big step right now, so it's nice.
Yeah, for sure. The scene changes, and Violet notes that over the last few days, Dain has, like, not wanted to look at her in the eye, and she has made no effort to talk to him either. Do you think that this deigned a conversation? Like, do you think that the fact that he was brought in for the interrogation and then refused to partake makes a conversation necessary?
I think it opened up a door for Violet to want to talk to Dain. I don't know that a conversation is necessary because, like, the last time they spoke, it was like, I hate you. I'm never going to forgive you. I never want to talk to you again. And then he, like, dropped this big secret bomb on her. But then this happening and Dain respecting her boundaries for once and then also finding out that he's, like, learning from Varish, I would think Violet would want more info on that side. And because he finally was respecting her boundaries, it's kind of like the door is open for her to, like, go talk to him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think the fact that there's information that she's leaving on the table purely because of her spite is a bad move tactically.
Oh, absolutely.
I think even if she wasn't ready to rekindle their friendship or whatever, she should have at least had a conversation with him. I'm going to parallel this a little bit with Fourth Wing. She would seek Xaden out and talk to Xaden, even if she, like, hated him. She was attracted to him, but she hated him in that moment, back in Fourth Wing. She could do the same thing here. I don't want to be your friend. I don't trust you, but you've got information that's super valuable to me. I just think it was a lost opportunity. The gang's on the way to class, and Riddick and Sawyer are basically telling Violet that she needs to chill and enjoy being a second year as opposed to going to Samara every weekend or being holed up in her room with Xaden. And I'm like, don't listen to them. No. Hold yourself up. Get your hole filled up.
Indeed. Fill that hole. I love that.
Rhiannon catches up to them and lets them know that a second year died in interrogation. So this school really is a death camp because Riddick asks, did that person break or were they broken? And before Rhiannon can answer, the group comes face to face with Carolyn Ashton, who keeps making an appearance and is named. This is the third time she's named in this book.
Just before that, though, Violet notices a hooded scribe walk by.
Yes.
Which I think is just important to flag because of what happens in the next chapter.
You mean later in this chapter?
Oh, sorry. Later in in the next scene.
Yeah, 100%. Carolyn Ashton wants to know how they escaped, and our gang isn't helping, and I want to know why, because where is the camaraderie? I feel like they were the first in 10 years to have escaped. What's the harm in
telling them how?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they just have beef with Carolyn because, like, they know that she was friends with
Jack. Yeah. I don't know.
But, yeah, I thought it was weird that they were so secretive about it.
It doesn't really make sense. Anyway, they arrive to Battle Brief, only to find out that the class is littered with papers that say, quote, Zolia falls to Dragonfire. The third largest city in the Breivik province has fallen to the Blue Fire Dragons and their riders. Though the city and its drifts fought valiantly, the 2-day battle ended in Poromish defeat. All who did not evacuate have perished. An estimated 10,000 lives have been lost, including General Fenella, the commander of Breivik's Griffin fleet. All trade routes to the city have been barricaded to prevent further loss of life. Blue fire!
Blue fire. What breathes blue fire? Wyvern.
Crazy.
I was losing my mind. How did this information get here? Who brought this information to Bezgaya?
Well, that's what our friends ask themselves.
I know. And who in the scribe quadrant was brave enough to print it, trudge over, distribute it. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh my God. The only one we know is Jasenia, and we know like she is on.
Well, we know Effie.
Oh, it's true. And I think a few others have been mentioned in passing, but like we know Jasenia's on their side.
Yeah.
But part of me was like, was it her? Or do we have other scribes? Like, are the scribes, like, realizing as they're being told to make information disappear? Like, is this generation going to be the one to break this freaking wheel? Like, there's so much excitement and so much I don't know. That's all. It was just very, very fun. But then freaking Markham. Oh, another snake. He plays it off so well.
I know. And it's crazy because Violet knows so basically Rhiannon is like, is this real or is this propaganda? And Violet's scribe training comes through, quote, parchment looks like ours. Side note, how many types of parchment are there? Like she even admits that she hasn't seen any other than theirs, but whatever.
It's the same thing in Bridgerton with the parchment.
What do you mean?
So in Bridgerton, it's not really a spoiler. Like they're trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown is.
Yeah.
So Eloise and Penelope are trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown is. And one of the things that they talk about and how one of the first clues they get is they find another pamphlet that is the same print and same weight of parchment as the Lady Whistledown papers, which allows them to figure out which print shop is printing her papers. So like I do think there's merit there because back in the day, like paper was made not like commercially like ours, right? You know? So there's like a recipe, there is a weight to it, there's a feel to it, there's a texture to it.
Okay, well that's Elise's expertise shining through. But then Professor Markham comes in and says something to Carolyn Ashton, who jumps up and disappears, which is very suspicious. Violet tells her friends that she thinks that the parchment was printed, or this leaflet was printed in Navarre. But she tells them just because it was printed here doesn't mean that it's real. She's really being careful. She's not making any pronouncements on it. Sawyer argues that there's no way they'd send a ride to annihilate a city of civilians. And how has no one still talked about the color of the dragonfire? Like, they still have the leaflets. Like, I know very soon the leaflets will be gathered and confiscated. Yeah. But right now they still have them. And nobody is paying attention to the color of the dragonfire. Makes no sense.
And as students who are studying the different types of dragons, it's almost crazy that none of them was like
nobody in this entire room.
Which dragon blows blue fire? Has blue fire? Expels blue fire.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is, but you're right. So Violet says, quote, if someone was trying to get news out, they'd send one leaflet like this to the printing press to be approved by scribes. Once approved, it would take hours to set the blocks to print unless multiple scribes worked on it. But this isn't official. There's no seal. So either it's fake and printed for just this class, which is a lot of work, or it's real and not approved.
And going back, a hooded scribe who was clearly trying to hide their identity walked through the writer's quadrant. So somebody from the school did this.
Yeah.
Which gives me so much hope and excitement.
The room is called to order, and Professor Markham gaslights everyone by saying that this is propaganda and everyone was just too dumb to realize. And Rhiannon asks for Markham's style, like, what's his next move if this is true?
Yeah.
And he's DDD.
Yeah.
Discredit, deflect, distract.
And that's exactly what he does.
So, discredits. You should have been able to spot those leaflets as propaganda within seconds. Deflect. When in the history of Navarre have we ever flown a riot comprised of only blue dragons? Clever. Because they had now confiscated all the papers so nobody could see and confirm that it said blue fire and not blue dragon.
Yeah, so he's gaslighting them, making them question what they read. It's so genius. He's so smooth about this whole thing.
I know. And distraction.
I can't.
He launches into this whole speech about Nolan's secret hard work, and Jack fucking Barlow is alive and escorted into this class by Carolyn Ashton. And that's where the chapter ends. How much did you hate me in this moment?
Like I said earlier, like jaw dropped. Like it's insane that Jack is resurrected. How do we have a zombie Jack? Like, what? Why? Okay, in their society,
Yes.
they are supposed to burn the belongings and people once they die.
Yeah.
So somebody would have
No,
had...
they can be buried. They can be
they
buried.
can be buried?
Yes, because this is a very small detail that I'm sure you glossed over. But when Violet is entering Basgiath, she sees there are rows and rows of graves.
Anyway, so when Jack got crushed, somebody would have had to have the mind to, in that moment, preserve his body and try to resurrect it.
Well, retrieve his body,
Want to resurrect it, and think, oh, Nolan could help with this. So I'm like thinking, like, is Varish's power to give life? But Varish wasn't around then. So who at the school decided? I don't even think Atos was around. Colonel. Daddy Atos. I don't think Daddy Atos was around either. So who the hell saw Jack Barlow and was like, we're going to need this kid. Let's keep his body. Let's fix him up. Like, that is so freaking insane. I don't know who did it. I know I'm like yelling right now.
That's okay. I like the passion.
Like, somebody had to have the forethought of like, we need Jack Barlow.
Why do we need Jack Barlow?
I don't know his power.
That's the question you're not asking.
We never found out his signet. I don't know. We know that he buzzed Violet with energy. The wards? Is his power and energy part of the wards? I don't know. Who saved him? He's such a shit. And also, I am sorry, in every single, like, I love supernatural stuff. I love the creepy, the crawly. I love the, like, I really enjoy horror. Resurrecting somebody. Resurrecting a soul and keeping the soul intact as it was is literally never possible.
Well, why do you think Nolan was so run ragged?
Yes, but even now, like, Barlow is up and walking, like, he's cracked. Like, there is no saving a person to 100%. I have never seen it go well. Like, this is not good. Jack 2.0 is gonna be worse. Like, it's so bad. Oh my God, this is the worst thing that could have happened. Anyway, I don't know. It's a very upsetting place to end. It's okay, I'm gonna read it later. But yeah, anyway, in most pop culture things, like, resurrecting a soul never goes well. It's like it always comes back still cracked, still broken, and usually worse, like usually more evil, more anger, worse. So there's no way this is good. There's no way. I love you, Nolan, but there's just no way.
I love this passion. I love this outburst. I'm the one that usually goes on a rampage, like a ranting rampage. It's so fun to watch it.
I have a lot of feelings.
No, I mean, of course you do. This is a huge plot twist.
Yeah.
There are many questions that you haven't even asked
fair.
that arise as a result of this, which I'm not going to ask for you because this is your journey. But you're onto something, is all I'm going to say.
It's just insane. I'm excited to keep reading because there's just so much unknown. Just as we start getting answers, so something happens and it just like shatters my world.
Yeah, you were just feeling like, oh, we've turned a corner and things are going well and our friends are communicating.
We're moving past because there's been so many relationship issues, but now like this is bigger than everything.
Although you can argue that the appearance, so now that the squad has survived the first interrogation, they've seen that Varish has a soft spot for Violet, if you will. That's going to bring them closer together. They're going to rally around her the same way they did other times in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame.
Yeah, to protect her from Barlow.
But now they're going to do it for Barlow too. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it could be another opportunity to bring them closer together is what I'm saying.
True. Then I will run with that because that's what I need to see.
That's what you need to see until you read the next 5 chapters.
Oh, God.
Last awards of the day?
Yeah.
All right. I don't have a most romantic line.
I do.
Okay.
I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Of course you are. I chose well.
That was my funniest line because I read it as really sassy.
Yeah. I took it as heartwarming. Like, Taryn's like, yeah, like I knew you'd be fine. I chose well.
Yeah.
I believe in you. But it is funny because everything he says is funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like snarky. Okay, what's your funniest then?
I don't.
Oh, okay, so you see?
So we combined our awards.
Yeah.
Do you have a spiciest?
I do. It's Violet telling Rhiannon, that's Markham. You think only riders can be vicious? Words are just as capable of eviscerating someone as a blade, and he's a master.
Very good line.
You?
We'll take that patch now.
Oh, I like that. That was good.
Good little sass.
All right, besties, next week, please read chapters 26 through 30.
Getting to the halfway point.
Yeah, I was just mentally mathing.
Yeah.
Is that the next chunk that we're doing? And it is, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave a review. It'll help other people find us. If you haven't already, we encourage you to set new episodes to download so that you can be sure to be up to date. And if ever we drop a bonus episode like we did a few weeks ago, it'll automatically make its way onto your phones. If you follow us on YouTube and watch our podcast in visual format, please like and subscribe. The same story, you'll get a notification anytime we drop a new episode, so that's really exciting. If you're interested in supporting our podcast, we launched our Amazon storefront a while ago now. We've been trying to promote it for a while. There you can find some of our favorite things. A lot of the books that we love, we're constantly adding books that we've read and that we love and we want to share with you onto it.
And that we talk about here on the podcast, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely a good resource to use in order to help support us. Also, our code with Smoke Show is still active, BBB1515. You can follow us on Instagram at BookBoundPod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. We say this every week, and I really hope people listen and believe us. We freaking love chatting in the DMs. It is so fun for us. And when people email us, bookboundpod@gmail.com, and tell us that they love the show and that they feel like we're their book besties, that literally makes us so happy. Elyse and I will constantly, this is how we encourage each other and we lift each other up. It's did you see that message? Yeah. Did you see this? It really helps us move forward because we're talking into a void, then we're editing into a void, and then we're posting into a void. And unless we, get that.
Hear back from you guys. It validates that what we're doing here in building a community, which is our goal, is working. And it's really awesome. So.
We love it. So yeah, keep it up. We really enjoy it. And please share to your stories that you're listening to our episodes, because you can spread the word and make our Book Bound Besties even bigger.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for this week. Let's get to reading.